During your childhood, you have a lot of obsessions that, looking back, seem ridiculous. But at the time, they were awesome. And the wild part is, we all had the same ones. From slap bracelets to your babysitter you had a crush on that you actually thought you had a chance with, we basically all lived the exact same childhood. So we're gonna go through all of these obsessions and decide whether they were valid or just completely ridiculous. And considering the fact that one of these obsessions ended with me having green skin, there were definitely some dumb ones in here, starting with slap bracelets. Slap bracelets are a perfect example of a toy that were made for one purpose, but everyone who actually bought them used it for a completely different reason. The intended purpose of these bracelets were, you slap it on your wrist, you wear it, great. But what everyone actually used it for was, well, assault. You would walk up behind someone and snap it on the back of their neck as hard as possible. And when slap bracelets were trending, everyone at my school knew this, which was terrifying. Because this meant you could not walk anywhere around school without fearing that at any moment, you might get slapped in the back of your neck. Me and my friends treated the neck snap as an art form. We had a system. During the time when all the students were either in the hallway or at lunch, we would identify a target, sneak up behind them, and strike, and the bracelet would wrap around their neck. But when the victim spins around, we would have already disappeared back into the crowd of students before they could even catch who did it. We thought we were geniuses. Now, does this make us sound like the most insufferable kids at school? And looking back, we probably were. But don't worry, because one day, something happened that made us realize, wow, we really are the problem. It was lunchtime. We're in the cafeteria looking for our next targets, and we spot what looks like an absolutely perfect setup. It's one of the guys I was on the baseball team with, sitting at the end of the table, head down, completely focused on his food. He's totally unaware of his surroundings. I knew it was him because of a sun hat he was wearing. So my friend and I creep up behind him, and wham, clean snap directly to the neck. But then he turned around. It was not a student. It was not the guy from my baseball team I thought it was. You know who it was? A teacher doing cafeteria supervision that happened to have the same sun hat. When we slapped the bracelet on him, the teacher slowly took off his sun hat and everyone went quiet after seeing what just happened. Then he turns around and looks at us. You cannot imagine the fear we had after seeing the teacher's face rather than our friends. Because last time I checked, assaulting a teacher is probably not a good idea. You would think the teacher would forget about the law, but surprisingly, he was very calm. Instead, what he did was get up, pick up his lunch, and say to us, "Come with me." And we all walked directly to the principal's office. He went in, told the principal exactly what happened, snitch, and then you could probably guess what happened next. That's right, the school exploded. No, I'm just kidding. We got detention. That was the end of my slap bracelet era, which meant I had to move on to a new obsession. An obsession that I know every single one of you watching also had, because it meant you get to skip school. I'm talking about field trips. Field trips were the greatest invention in the history of human civilization, right along with the air fryer and LeBron James. Because field trips weren't actually about learning anything. Nobody went to the science museum and came back as a changed person. We were just happy to be outside of the classroom, because none of us go outside anymore. And when I say us, yes, I mean me and you. We both don't touch grass, twin. But because I was so obsessed with field trips, I was willing to commit actual crimes to attend one. Which brings me to a story that you definitely should not try doing yourself. My school had a fundraiser one day where whichever class raised the most money won a special trip to the aquarium. My class did not win, so I was super butthurt because I missed out on a free day off school. But luckily for me, I had a couple friends in the class that did win. So I told them how jealous I was that they were going on a field trip and I wasn't. They came up with a plan to sneak me onto the field trip. The buses were leaving at 8 a.m. All I had to do was blend in, get on the bus, and by the time anyone realized I wasn't supposed to be there, we would already be at the aquarium. The teacher would have no real choice but to let me stay. What were they gonna do? Call another bus to bring me back? Drive 45 minutes back to school just to drop off one kid? Literally the only thing we had to do was get me on that bus without the teacher noticing. And honestly, the plan was working at first. My friends basically formed a circle around me so the teacher couldn't see me. And as students were slowly filing onto the bus, we waited till the teacher was distracted with something else and we all got on the bus. Obviously, we went straight to the back to get as far away from her as possible. I just crouched down on the floor, hoping the teacher wouldn't come back here before leaving. But then I heard it. The engine started and all of a sudden, the bus was moving. The plan was actually working. I was actually gonna make it to see Nemo. All good things have to come to an end though, because then the teacher stood up. Now, I don't know why, in all of my strategic planning, I did not account for the most predictable thing a teacher does on a field trip, which is count the children to happen. Like, it's literally their only job on these trips. Don't lose the students. So she starts walking down the aisle, moving toward the back, and I, with my incredible instincts, decided that the best course of action was to become as small as I could and put my friends' backpacks on top of me. I thought it would just hide me completely. But when the teacher got to the back, she said to my friend Garrett,
"Garrett, why do you have so many backpacks stacked up right there?"
And Garrett just went,
to save space.
But the teacher wasn't having it, so she told him to move the backpacks, and when he did, there I was, staring straight up at her. Now this is the part that frustrates me, because this happened about 5 minutes after leaving, so the teacher turned the bus around and dropped me back off at school. I had to walk back in there in silence while everyone watched from the window. You can't imagine how humiliating that was. And then, as a bonus prize, I got detention for it. If we had just drove for like 5 more minutes, I doubt she even would have turned back. That aquarium actually closed down recently too, so I'll never get a chance to go to it anymore. What even happens when an aquarium closes? Do the fish just fly away? They put them in the ocean? Now in this scenario, I was trying to be invisible, but that definitely wasn't the case for my next obsession, which was superheroes. At some point in every kid's life, you pick your specific hero and you become a ride or die for them. I didn't want to be the super smart one or the wealthy one or the one that could fly. I wanted to be the one who was so uncontrollably angry that he turned green. So Halloween comes around one year. My mom asks what I want to be, and the answer is obvious. I say Hulk without hesitating. She says, great, we'll get you a costume at Spirit Halloween. But I looked at her and said, no, a costume from Spirit Halloween is not enough. I need to actually
be green.
Now, little did I know at the time, this would be a decision that ruined the whole next week of my life. My mom, who, shout out to her, didn't say I was insane or that she didn't want to go through all this work. No, instead, she said, okay, let's get you some paint and make you green. So we got the paint and painted me green from head to toe. Like, my whole body. Well, I guess not my whole body, if you know what I mean. But anyways, I loved it. When I looked down at my arms, they were green. I had the purple shirts on, doing poses in the bathroom mirror, and when we went trick-or-treating, it was perfect. Adults were complimenting my costume all night. Other kids looked scared, wondering why there's a 4-foot-tall Hulk going around. It was amazing. But I should have known it wouldn't last, because we got home, and I got in the shower trying to get my paint off. But there was a problem. It would not come off. I scrubbed harder, still completely, fully green. It still doesn't work. The paint was designed to survive sweat, heat, and water. My mom had accidentally purchased professional cinema level permanent body paint and applied it to her small child the night before a school day. The only solution was to wait for it to wear off naturally, which took 3 full days of showering and scrubbing. And during those 3 days, I had to go to school. Just walking into school looking like a green bean. When you're green on Halloween, everyone thinks you're really cool. When you're green the day after Halloween, everyone just thinks you're autistic. That first day back at school is one I will never forget. Literally everyone would look at me no matter where I went. But the worst part was trying to explain it to anybody. So instead of trying to do that, I just didn't explain it at all. The only person I actually told about it was my teacher, because she asked if I was going through problems at home, and I said, well, yeah, my mom turned me green forever, but if you mean something else, no problems. I kind of miss being green though, so maybe next year I'll dress up as a crayon. This was painful mentally because of the embarrassment at school, but I also had some childhood obsessions that were painful physically, like animals. Animals were my entire personality as a kid. Now, of course, that doesn't make me different from anyone else, because basically everyone loves animals growing up. Honestly, I wouldn't trust you if you weren't obsessed with animals. But I took it a step further. I knew the most random facts about all these animals. Like, did you know
the pistol shrimp creates a cavitation bubble that briefly reaches the temperature of the sun?
I didn't either. To be honest, I looked that up for the video because I was trying to impress you guys. But I still did know some facts. And as we all know, I might have a little bit of the tism. At least that's what my mom says. So just looking at animals wasn't enough for me. I needed more. So when I was about 8 years old, my parents took me to the zoo. And this was basically the best day of my life. Seeing the lions and tigers close up, smelling the elephant poop, the whole experience was just awesome. And eventually, we got to the orangutan exhibit. They're just chilling, as calm as can be, and I'm thinking to myself,
I wish I could be inside there.
But funny enough, the fence for the orangutan exhibit was only about 2 feet tall. There was 2 fences, so it was like one fence, then a couple feet, and then another fence. But they were both very easy to jump over if someone wanted to. And I wanted to. So when my parents looked away for 1 second, I jumped over the fences. I was inside the exhibit before anyone had processed what was even happening. My parents turned around and I was on the wrong side of the fence, inside a real zoo enclosure. I wasn't trying to go pet an orangutan or anything, so I didn't get any closer. I just wanted to be in the exhibit with them. Obviously, when my mom saw me inside the exhibit, she screamed,
Tyler, you get back here right now!
And you would think, if you're inside an exhibit with an animal that could very easily turn you into dinner if they wanted to, you would be scared of that animal. But I was way more scared of my mom, so I hopped back over the fence in approximately 2 seconds. A zoo employee who heard the screaming came over, saw that a child was climbing back from the exhibit, and very calmly escorted our family out of the orangutan area. Not the whole zoo, 2, just that section. Then she looked at my parents, she looked at me, and knew none of us could be trusted near the orangutans anymore. She understood it was a mistake and just told us to not do that again or they would have to kick us out of the zoo. So my mom took that as a chance to say,
"You hear that, Tyler? Do you want to get banned from the zoo? If not, you better never do that again."
She just said we would get kicked out, but whatever. From that point on, I never climbed into another exhibit again. Well, at least until one day when I was in Cincinnati and I saw this gorilla named Harambe. Nah, I'm just kidding. That wasn't me. Rest in peace, Harambe, though. I miss you, dog. Now, only certain people can relate to this next obsession because to experience what I'm about to say, you would have needed a babysitter growing up. But my babysitter left me with trauma I still have to this day, and let me explain why. For those of you who didn't have a babysitter growing up, congrats. Your parents probably took care of you all the time, or they would just leave you at home by yourself, which is concerning. But if you've never have had a babysitter, let me explain why this was a childhood obsession we all had. When you're a little kid, you're delusional. So when someone shows up to your house every day, they're constantly nice to you, they're fun, and they even make you food, you start to think, wait, this person must like me. And when I say like, I mean like we have some chemistry, if you know what I'm saying. And when I was 8 years old and I thought an older girl liked me, this was my dream. So one afternoon, while she was babysitting me, I decided I was not gonna let the moment pass anymore. I walked up to her and asked if she would be my girlfriend. She smiled, was as nice as possible, and said to me,
"Oh, Tyler, that's so sweet, but I have a boyfriend."
The moment she said that, you could see me turning into Syndrome from The Incredibles in real time. I cried for hours. She tried to console me, but after finding out that my one true love had a boyfriend this whole time, I was broken. So eventually, my mom gets home that day and asks why I'm so upset. And I didn't tell her the details of what happened, but I did say to her that I wanted a new babysitter because it felt like my current babysitter was cheating on me.
Cheating on you? What do you mean she's cheating on you?
So I explained the situation to my mom, but the next thing she did was heartbreaking because she said to me,
"Why would you think the babysitter liked you in that way?"
So I told her, well, the babysitter's always coming over to hang out, she's super nice, and she makes me food. Because my mom starts chuckling and goes,
"Tyler, I pay her to do all those things. She's not coming over just to hang out with you for fun."
This was the moment where I found out she didn't just decide to come hang out with an 8-year-old for fun every day. No, this was actually her job. Her job. And from that point on, I could never trust a babysitter. This was my first true heartbreak. I'm done with being so negative and always having heartbreak in my life. Surely there's gotta be some moments growing up that were actually happy memories, right? Yes, actually there were. And a particularly happy memory I have of my childhood is bottle flipping. Bottle flipping is just a you had to be there to understand it type of thing. On paper, it doesn't seem crazy. You just flip a bottle and try to land it. That's the entire activity. But yet, when bottle flipping was trending, people were obsessed with it. I'm talking competitions involving the whole school. And if you were really good at it, you'd probably get on the Ellen show. And my school was always trying to do things to get kids excited to actually wake up in the morning and learn for 6 hours straight. So they organized a bottle flipping tournament. There was a bracket and anyone could sign up to be on the list. The format was simple. People would go head to head and flip bottles at the same time. If you both land it, you go again until one person misses. It happened at lunch. And let me tell you, the whole school would show up to watch. The nerds, the goth kids, the kids who have been in the same grade for 3 years. The kids you're extra nice to because you fear what they're capable of. People took it very seriously, and I was right in the middle of it. And while I was pretty decent at bottle flipping, and I really wanted to win it all, I knew the competition would be tough because there was one man participating who, I won't use his name, but he knows who he is. And this man had a gift that I genuinely believe he was born with. He could land a bottle flip on command every single time with a consistency that most professional athletes would envy. I genuinely never saw him miss a bottle flip. So whenever someone was up against him in the bracket, they basically knew they were cooked. Now I made it past the first 4 rounds and was into the quarterfinals feeling pretty good. But guess who my next opponent was? He who shall not be named. I thought I was cooked. I thought I had no chance because this man could literally not miss. But on one specific day, something happened. When we were going up against each other, first of all, it was a huge crowd, but every flip I threw was landing. Back to back, to back, to back, to back, to back, to back. I was in complete flow state, and the crowd started noticing. The energy was shifting. This wasn't supposed to be happening. He was landing all of his flips too, because of course he was, but I was landing mine, and that was the part that had never happened before. For the first time ever, you could see my opponent start to look slightly nervous. We hit 5 in a row, then 6, then 7. I'm not gonna say it. But by the time we were at 8, every student would hold their breath when we flipped, and then go, ooh. boo when someone landed it. Like people were standing up. We both landed the 9th flip, but then we picked up our bottles for the 10th. And you know what happened when his flipped? It missed. I had never seen him miss. Nobody had. The crowd went insane. I stood there in the quiet center of all of it, looking at his bottle on its side of the table, understanding that this was an opportunity that may never come again. If I landed this one bottle flip, it was over. So I picked up the bottle, took a deep breath, and I flipped it. But right when it left my finger, it felt different than all the other flips. Because before, I wasn't even thinking. I was just flipping it using muscle memory and it was landing. But I didn't do that this time. So when I flipped the bottle, it barely rotated. It just sort of flopped sideways and came to rest completely horizontal on the table. I missed my one shot. Because here's the thing you gotta know about me. I ain't built for high pressure moments. You know how some athletes just perform best when the lights are bright? I'm the exact opposite. The moment the pressure is on, I crumble. So of course, the crowd let out a big moan after I missed because they wanted to see the favorite go down. Then my opponent went again and he landed the bottle and I missed 2 in a row. So it was over and he was still the champion and I choked. Looking back on it now, if that bottle did land, it would have been my most impressive athletic achievement. It's kind of sad actually. I had so much dopamine during that flipping session, but let me take you back to the moment where my dopamine addiction started. It wasn't the day I got my first phone. It wasn't from playing video games. My first dopamine addiction came from fidget spinners. The fidget spinner era lasted about 4 seconds, but man, were those 4 seconds legendary. Now for the younger people out there who weren't really around for the fidget spinner era, you might not see what made this thing so popular. And if I tried explaining to you why these little fidget toys were the biggest thing on planet Earth, it probably wouldn't make much sense now. It was just another one of those things you had to be there for. But here's the thing. The obsession with fidget spinners wasn't really about the actual spinning part. It was entirely about the different types of fidget spinners because there were some really cool designs. So if you just had a basic red one that spun for 15 seconds, cool, get in line, buddy. But if you had a glow in the dark one, okay, now we're talking. There were so many different tiers of how cool a fidget spinner could be. But the really cool fidget spinners were super expensive, so not a lot of people had them. I had a standard one and I wanted nothing more than to get a custom rare one. The issue was my parents would never buy me a $100 fidget spinner and I was broke, so I couldn't upgrade mine. So I went online to find something that would separate me from the crowd and I found it immediately. A $50 fidget spinner with a metal frame, 3 different colors that changed depending on what lighting you looked at them in, and it spun for 3 minutes. It was absolutely perfect. I needed it. But once again, I didn't have the money. The only thing a child could do in this situation. I went into my mom's purse, I found her card, and I bought the fidget spinner without saying anything to anyone. I knew that in a few days, I was gonna walk into school with the most elite fidget spinner in the building. But 3 days later, my mom sits me down out of nowhere and asks,
Tyler, did you use my credit card to buy something?
I said no with zero hesitation, but I could tell she already knew. Apparently, she'd gotten a purchase notification the second the transaction went through, which I didn't know that was a thing until that day. But she wasn't asking me if I used her card to find out if I actually bought anything. She was giving me a chance to tell the truth. And I looked her in the eyes and lied without blinking. But the fidget spinner was already on its way, right? So she was just gonna have to let me have it. After catching me lying, she then told me the website I bought it from was a scam. It was a fake store that collected your payment information and sent you nothing. She had to cancel her credit card, call the bank, dispute the charges, blah, 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 all because I wanted a $50 fidget spinner with diamonds in it. I got grounded, the fidget spinner never arrived, and this was so heartbreaking because I really thought if I got that special fidget spinner, everyone would have been circling around me wanting to try it, thinking I was cool. But instead, no one thought I was cool. I do have to say though, without a doubt, one of the coolest things I remember from my childhood was the Odell Beckham Jr. catch. If you've never seen it before, here it is. But this catch caught everyone by storm. After this, people would always say, hey, I'm gonna do the Odell catch. Every kid wanted to be Odell. But I took that to the next level because I even wanted to look like Odell. He had a haircut at the time I thought was awesome. Bleached blonde, curly hair with a fade. I wanted that haircut bad. So I went to my mom and told her about it. My mom looked at me for about a second and then said,
Tyler, you cannot get this haircut.
I was very stubborn. So I said, no, Mom, you don't understand. I need this haircut. I will do whatever it takes to get it. And because I complained for a whole week over this, my mom gave in and said,
I'll take you to the barber and get you that haircut.
Not every person can have the same exact haircut. And let's just say me and Odell do not have the same hair type. So I went to the barber, showed him the cut I wanted, and he gave it to me. When he said he was done, I was so excited for that chair to turn around and see how awesome my hair looked. But the barber swung my chair around and I looked a lot less like Odell and way more like Big Bird. I literally just had the same haircut, but it was yellow, not even blonde, and it wasn't curly at all. It was just straight. I was bawling crying and I asked asked why I didn't look like Odell's, and the barber explained to me that Odell has curly hair and I have straight, so it's just not possible. So I went to school with this goofy looking haircut, which is a place where hats are not allowed. One person even asked me why I would do that, and I had to explain that I was going for the Odell Beckham Jr. haircut. But he just responded back to me saying,
"Did Odell do a Michael Jackson and become white?"
That haircut lasted about 2 weeks before I simply could not take it anymore, and my brown roots started to show, so I said, forget it, we gotta go bald. And let's just say, I do not have the head shape for a buzz cut. I looked like an egg. But you know what? Since you guys like to see me suffer for some reason, if this video gets 100,000 likes, which will not happen again, I will go bald. Please don't make me do that. Picture this. You're in school taking a test that you know you're gonna fail. Now imagine being in that moment, but you had superpowers. And more specifically, the power to make people pee their pants on command. Boom! You make the teacher pee her pants, she runs out of the room, you look up all the answers and ace the test. That is why having superpowers would be awesome. But what they don't tell you about superpowers is that while having them sounds amazing, there are a lot of reasons why they would suck. Growing up, everyone wanted superpowers like flying, mind reading, super strength. So I'm gonna tell you situations I've been in where these superpowers would have saved me, but also why these powers aren't as amazing as they seem. And I'm also gonna tell you some specific powers I wish I had that I guarantee you've never heard of. But before that, we gotta address what everyone was thinking when they clicked on this video. When someone asks you what superpower you would want, the number one answer is always the ability to talk to women. Mind reading. The answer is mind reading. And I understand the appeal. You walk into a room, you know exactly what everyone thinks of you, so you can never get lied to again. Sounds incredible, but that's because you're thinking about it wrong. Here's what you're picturing. You go into a party, some girl smiles at you, and you hear her think,
"Wow, he's so cool. I hope he talks to me."
So you go up and talk to her. No more playing this game wondering if people like you or not. But really, that's not what's gonna happen. What's actually gonna happen is you walk into that room, and within 30 seconds, you hear 6 different people thinking things like,
"Damn, bro looks chopped today. Why does he smell like that?"
and then when you actually go up to talk to someone, you're gonna realize that they're thinking,
"Please just let this conversation end already."
I know this for a fact because of what happened to me at lunch one time in 10th grade. There was this girl, I won't say her name, but I will spell it backwards for you. A-N-A, and I had been convinced for weeks that she liked me. My friends were convinced. The evidence was there. She would laugh at everything I said. She always sat near me. She texted me first. It had all the classic signs. So I had built up this entire narrative in my head where she definitely liked me, and I was just waiting for the right moment to ask her out. But one day, I'm sitting across from her at lunch, and she's smiling, and I'm in the middle of telling a story. I'm thinking to myself, bro, I gotta make my move on her soon. Like, she obviously likes me. But while I'm talking, I notice she keeps glancing off to the side every few seconds. Real quick. At first, I thought she might just be having a very minor seizure, so I just ignored it. But then I realized what was actually happening. Because my friend Jake got up and went to the bathroom. And the moment that happened, Anna looked completely uninterested in what I was saying now. All of a sudden, she didn't care at all about me explaining to her why LeBron could solve world peace. Now, I didn't figure it out in that moment, but after a couple months, I found out she never even liked me. She liked my friend Jake. But you may ask, well, then why did she act so interested in me? Well, Jake was my best friend, so she was using me as a way to get Jake's attention. Did it work? No, because me and Jake are both too dumb to understand context clues. But the whole point of me saying this is that if I had the ability to read minds in that moment, it would have been both good and bad. Good because I probably would have found out a lot sooner that she wasn't interested in me and saved the heartbreak, but bad because every time she talked to me in class or smiled at me, instead of thinking she really liked me, I would have heard what she was really thinking, which was probably something like,
"If this guy wasn't Jake's friend, I would get a restraining order against him."
and that's just one person. Mind reading means you're hearing everyone, constantly, all the time. You're at a family dinner and your uncle is thinking about something I probably can't even say on this video or else it would get taken down. You gotta listen to it. You're talking to your best friend and he's thinking, well, to be honest, there's probably nothing going on inside your best friend's head, so you might be good in that scenario. But you never get to have a real conversation again because you already know what everyone's thinking, and people just naturally tend to think more negative. So you would definitely hear a lot more mean things about you than nice. So mind reading sounds like a cheat code, but in reality, you're just gonna get your feelings hurt way faster. But funny enough, I actually do have this ability. Like, I can read your mind right now. Watch. Think about something right now, and I'll guess it. Are you ready? You're thinking about LeBron in a maid outfit. No? Okay, maybe that was just me. But anyways, I don't want to make it sound like all superpowers are bad. There are some specific ones I've always wanted that I guarantee you've never heard of that would be awesome to have. The first one I had in mind would give me 1,000,000 times more aura in my life. The ability to have my very own theme music play every time I enter a room. Imagine walking into school on the first day. Everyone's trying to make the best impression possible. They've got their hair done, best outfit on, but still, none of that can compete with what happens when you walk through that front door. Everyone's staring at you as you're just oozing aura out of your pores, and you're just walking to your locker like this is completely normal, because for you, it is. Now, the only sticky part about this power is making sure you can control when it does and doesn't go off. Because if it just always goes off whenever you walk into a room, that would not be good. Imagine you pull up to your grandma's funeral and this just starts bumping in the background while 50 people with tears in their eyes slowly turn to look at you. But honestly, even if I couldn't control when it goes off, it's still worth it. It's just too tough to pass up on. Now with this power, everyone knows when you arrive. But what about having a power that does the opposite? Because another super popular answer when you ask someone what power they would want is invisibility. And I'll be honest, if this is the #1 power you would want, I can't trust you. Now most people's reasons for saying this is imagine all the places you could sneak into. Free concerts all the time. Oh, the pyramids are off limits to go to? Not for you. Sure, if that's what you would actually use invisibility for, that sounds pretty dope. But let's be real, most of the people who say they would choose invisibility are saying it because they want to be a creep. I know there's some freaky people out there that would absolutely abuse this power. My friends and I were debating what the best power would be one time, and one of our friends went,
I want to be invisible.
then when we were like,
Oh, well, where would you go if you were invisible?
he just went, didn't even say a single word. That laugh said way more than anything he could have actually said would have. The problem with invisibility is that nobody thinks it through all the way. But because every girl I interact with says I seem slightly autistic, I have thought this through. So let me explain. If you go invisible, your body turns invisible, not your clothes. So the second you're invisible, you're just a floating outfit standing in the middle of the room. You're not invisible, you're just floating clothes. The only way to counter this is to just get completely naked every time you want to use this power. So this means invisibility is really just a complicated way to become a nudist. And I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to be walking around butt naked just to get free front row seats at a World Cup match. Well, actually, but let's say you figure out how to become invisible without everyone seeing your clothes. We'd still have a big problem. Because what happens when you sneeze? Nobody can see you, but that doesn't mean they can't hear you. So bam, you get caught for being the person that can turn invisible. They turn you into the government, then do tests on your body for the rest of your life, and you never get to see the light of day ever again. I'm using sneezing as a scenario that could mess this power up because one time, my friends and I were going to a concert, and this concert was impossible to get tickets for. I don't know how we got them, but unfortunately, one of my friends didn't get a ticket and he really wanted to go. So we came up with a plan. Now this friend was pretty short. So the idea was to buy a baby stroller and put him in it, hoping the security would think we had just had a sleeping baby. I saw someone do it in a YouTube video, so that's where we thought of it. I know it sounds wild, but if you were there, you would see just how real it actually looked. We thought it was genuinely gonna work. But when we got to the front gate, as we're about to scan our tickets, the baby in our stroller sneezes. And it was not a cute little baby sneeze. No, it was full on achoo! So the security said,
Hey, we need to take a look at your baby that just screamed like a 40-year-old man.
and when they did, they saw a 180-month-old person instead of a 6-month-old. We all got kicked out after that. So moral of the story, sneezing or any noises would ruin any chance of invisibility being useful. But I've come up with a power that quite literally has 0 downsides. If you had this power, it would do nothing but make your life better. I dare you to try finding something negative about the power to duplicate socks. I know how that sounds. You can pick any power in the world and you choose socks? Before you assume, no, this has nothing to do with liking feet, okay? But the reason this power is so sick is because whenever your laundry gets done, what happens? You always lose a sock, somehow. I don't know where it goes, but it literally feels like whenever my laundry is finished, I only have one of each sock, never a matching one. It's not like I can just go buy more because no matter what, one of them always disappears. So imagine if you could duplicate socks, and then all of a sudden, you never have this problem again. If you only have one sock, that's fine. Snap! Now you got 2. So this might just be the best power ever invented. Even better than teleportation. Don't get me wrong, teleportation could be awesome to have, so I'm not gonna trash on it, but boy oh boy, could having this power go horrifically wrong. The main thing that nobody considers with teleportation is how dangerous it would be to have. This would genuinely be super dangerous for you and anyone around you, because if you're teleporting by thinking of a location, how do you know someone's not in that exact location? I want to teleport to Times Square, so I do. But then bam, I'm inside of a homeless dude. Wait, that's okay, that's not what I meant. I meant like, you know, it's probably better if I just don't explain it actually. You never know what's waiting for you on the other side of that teleportation though. There is literally no safe place to actually teleport if you think about it. Even if you try going to the most remote place, a grass field that goes on for miles and miles with no people around, still, you might end up inside a cow. Why did I not learn from the first time saying that sentence? But you don't even realize teleportation can be this dangerous because whenever you see it in the movies, they're always executing it perfectly. But this is real life where mistakes happen. And also, teleportation isn't real. So I guess this isn't real life. I don't even know why I'm making this video in the first place. Okay, you know what? Actually, video is canceled. Let's play the outro. Nah, just kidding. The video is not over yet. I gotta pay my bills somehow, so we're gonna keep going. Next power up, let me cook with this one. The ability to untangle headphones by the snap of a finger. Because similar to the sock problem, for some reason, you could perfectly put a pair of headphones on the ground in a straight line, but when you blink, they will be completely tangled up to no return. No one knows how it happens, but it does. It's just unpreventable. There are knots in there that defy science, and trying to untangle them, well, good luck. You have a better chance of me finding a girlfriend. Why do I keep making these jokes every time? One time I was on a long car ride going from California to Vegas, and I brought headphones with me to listen to music. They were super tangled, but I figured I would just untangle them once we got on the road and all would be okay. But then we started driving, and literally for the whole drive, which was 4 hours, I was attempting to untangle them and I couldn't figure it out. Now you may think this power only would have been useful 5 years ago because everyone has AirPods now. And to that I say, actually, I didn't think about that part. I guess this power would be useless now. Why did I not think about that before making this part of the video? I haven't even used wired headphones myself in like 3 years. Luckily, some powers are timeless though, like super speed. Super speed is the power that sounds the coolest when you're young because that's one of the only things that matters when you're a kid. Being the fastest person in school. It basically decided your popularity there. The fastest kid at school was untouchable. So naturally, everyone wants to be fast when they're kids. But the day I realized this power would not be as great as it seems was when I was watching the show, The Boys. Because in the very first scene of the show, A-Train, who has super speed, literally runs straight through a girl and different parts of her body splatter all over the place like a piñata was just broke. Now I want to clarify, this was fake. It's not real. Just felt the need to put that in there because I can't take any more chances after my channel got hooked a couple weeks ago. But watching this was the first time where I said to myself, oh yeah, it's probably really hard to see where you're going when you're running 500 miles per hour. If I spin around like this, my motion gets blurry after 1 second. So I doubt I could see where I'm going if I ran that fast. It's pretty much the same problem as teleportation, except with one more issue. Bugs. At a normal running speed, running into a bug is annoying. At super speed, you're cooked. Just think about it this way. When you're in a car and you run into a bug, it splatters all over the windshield and it's completely unavoidable. You have no time to see the bug coming. Now imagine that happening, but to your face. Bugs splattering all over it. No matter where you want to use your super speed to get to, you're gonna need to bring some dude wipes with you just to clean yourself up. And don't you dare run with your mouth open or else it's GG. And then there's friction. Now, did I have to Google what this word meant? Yes. But basically, clothes are not built for super speed. The friction of moving that fast would heat your clothes up to the point where they'd be burning off your body in real time. So now you've got the bugs on your face, and once again, you're butt naked. Why does every power seem to just make you butt naked? And if you don't think this is realistic, trust me, it is. Because I was doing track and field in middle school one year, and it was the biggest race. The whole school was watching, because we had this track and field day once a year. So I was locked in, but I'm racing the 400-meter race. And right when the start sound goes off, I sprint the first 100 meters like I have something to prove. I'm going full speed, but I'm starting to feel something behind me. It was almost as if someone was pulling on the back of my shorts. I ignored it in the moment because I still had a chance to finish the race. But once I finished, and lost, I noticed a lot more people looking at me than the person who actually won the race. And I quickly realized it wasn't because of my dazzling looks. No, it was my shorts. What was wrong with my shorts? The back of them ripped. They were already slightly ripped when I started the race, but the speed of running in them made them almost rip off entirely. You could see all my underwear. That's something you don't come back from as a kid in middle school. So if I ever attempted to run while having super speed, it would get freaky real quick, and not in a good way. But speaking of freaky, can you imagine how cool it would be to have the ability to talk to animals? everybody has looked at their pet at least once in their life and thought,
How awesome would it be if I could just know what they're thinking right now?
dogs would be the best case scenario. You'd ask your dog what he wants, and he'd say something like,
To bite your limbs off. Or maybe he'd ask for a treat.
so dogs would be amazing to talk with because you know that your dog loves you. They'd just be glazing you all day. But cats, that would be the last animal I'd want to speak to. You'd finally get to understand what they're thinking, and it would just be pure judgment. I can't prove it, but I'm pretty sure all cats hate humans. The relationship we humans have with mosquitoes is what cats probably think of us. You don't even need to give humans the ability to understand cats to know they don't like us. Have you ever actually tried petting a cat? I don't know about you, but every time I try laying a finger on my cat, he swats at me with his claws, genuinely trying to draw blood. I saw a video one time saying that if you passed away in your house and your cat was there, after a few days, it would just start eating your body. So I don't think I would want to talk to cats, and I'm saying this as someone who loves my cat. The best animals to talk to would be the wild ones though. Imagine you're in the wilderness and you see a bear. Normally, you're cooked. You just became dinner. But in this scenario, you can say,
Listen, man, I'm cooking steaks back at the campground. Those will taste a lot better than I would with all this red 40 in my body. Why don't we go back together and I'll make you a ribeye?
and the bear goes,
You know what? Steak does sound good.
but then he probably eats you anyways. The only thing I'm terrified of is if you give this power to the wrong person out there. Cause I just know there would be someone out there who, if they had the chance, would use this power to raise up the animals. Why are you putting an arrow at me, editor? You're fired again, buddy. Pack your bags. Now I'm gonna make a very hot take. Out of every single power I have mentioned and will mention in this video, super strength would by far be the most overrated. Before you come saying how horrible of a take this is, just hear me out. When was the last time you needed to lift something that required superhuman strength? A car? A building? A boulder? When did that come up? Because for most people, the answer is never. The things you need to lift are boxes, groceries, your phone, your backpack. None of those require super strength. I mean, I know some of y'all's McDonald's orders out there would take super strength to lift, but I ain't gonna judge. Sure, super strength would make these things slightly easier, but for how much people glaze this power, it's not adding that much to your life. With the technology we have these days, this power is basically useless. We have machines that can lift any amount of weight perfectly fine. Matter of fact, this power would have been useless even thousands of years ago too. Do you know how much those blocks on the pyramids weigh? Me neither, but somehow they were able to stack those on top of each other without having the advanced technology we have these days. Now yes, it was probably aliens who built that, but still, you get my point. What super strength would actually do is ruin the daily activities you gotta do. You go to open a door, but when you pull, it just completely breaks. No, not the door handle, the whole door itself. There's literally no door left now. You'd be buying a new one every day. If you get even slightly angry while holding your phone, you're definitely crushing it accidentally, so there's another expense. Have you ever seen the Hulk scrolling through YouTube Shorts? No, that's because he would break the phone out of rage if he was scrolling through the app and came across one of my videos. If you still don't believe this power would suck, just let me tell you about the time I was hanging out with my friend. So my friend's grandma has one of those old antique houses that smell kind of like death, but they had a sick pool in the backyard. So I would go over there to swim with my friend. But one day I went there and my friend texted me saying, hey, we're already in the pool. Just open the front door and come through to the backyard. So I, a person with average strength at best, pulled on the front door and the handle just came off, like completely detached. I'm standing there with no way to get inside because the door is now just a flat surface with a hole in it. And I'm also thinking,
How can I not put the blame on myself for this?
so I panicked in a way that was probably not my best option. I tried to put the door handle back. I could not put it back though. I also could not get into the house. So I ended up just leaving it on the ground and told my friend I had an emergency at home that I needed to go back for. My friend never brought up the door handle to me, so I don't know if they thought it just fell off by itself or they knew I did it but didn't want to embarrass me. To this day, I've been too scared to go back to that house and look his grandma in her eyes. I think she might have passed away by now, so I don't think I can do that actually. But imagine if I had super strength in that moment. I think the whole house would have genuinely fallen apart the moment I tried twisting that handle, and that is not an exaggeration. The cool muscles you get wouldn't even be worth it either, because you'd never be able to find any clothes that fit you or sleep on any bed again. Don't even try giving your mama a hug either. You'll hear her ribs crack the second you put your arms around her. Now, just because you have a superpower does not mean you have to use it for good. Remember, superheroes exist, but supervillains exist too. And with the ability I'm thinking of right now, I would definitely become a villain because I would love to have the ability to make anyone at any moment pee their pants on command. There are just so many scenarios looking back where this power would have made my day a lot better. Think about the possible uses for it. Someone is being rude to you in public. Bam! Now they have a dark stain on their pants for everyone to see. You're waiting in a really long line that you don't got time to be in. Suddenly, everyone there feels a warm liquid crawling down their leg. So they run out of that line as quick as possible to go take care of it. The reason I like like this power so much is because while it is annoying, it doesn't actually hurt anybody. It will be a minor inconvenience in their day, but they'll forget about it in a week. If I'm picking one power off this entire list, it's this one. Don't overthink it. But there is one power that you see more than anything else in movies and TV shows. You will not find a show about people who have powers without seeing the ability to fly. Close your eyes and picture this. You're in the sky looking down on the whole world. There's no noise up there besides the sound of your own breath. You're at peace. And then, wham! You get shot down by a drone. Because here's the thing you gotta remember. We live in the real world, not a comic book. In this world, if you go outside and fly for the first time, within 45 seconds, there is a government response being coordinated just to take you down. This isn't like any of the powers where you can kind of hide them. Super strength, maybe you can hide it by, I don't know, just not flipping cars over. Super speed, just don't run as fast as you can. But flight, there's no hiding that one. If you ever actually want to use the ability, you will get caught. If it's not people that see you in the air, it will be an air traffic controller seeing an unidentified object in the sky. So literally, there is only one way this situation could possibly go if you have this ability. You get caught by some government entity, they put you in a lab and do tests on you for the rest of your life. Maybe, if you're lucky, you will see the sun a couple more times, but it will only be because they're using you as a weapon. You don't actually ever get to be free again. The only show that depicts what would actually happen if someone saw you flying is Stranger Things. When they found out those kids had powers, they locked them up and were willing to literally tear the universe apart just to make sure they didn't escape. And plus, flying wouldn't even be as awesome as you think. I have a friend who skydives all the time, which, why? I don't know. You'll never catch me joining them. But anyways, I've asked him before what it feels like to be skydiving. Because the closest thing I've ever been to skydiving is going on a roller coaster. And my friend told me it feels amazing, except for this one issue. What is the issue? Well, you know how when you go on a roller coaster, you get those knots in your stomach on the drops? Well, my friend said when you're skydiving, that feeling multiplies by 1,000. So the main issue he has with skydiving is that it always makes him have to poop, sometimes before he even gets to land. He said he's had multiple close calls before where he almost was dropping deuces from the sky like a bird. So unless you want to be pooping on innocent civilians, the ability to fly would stink, literally. But if you do want to poop on innocent civilians, hit me up. I might have a job for you. Being a kid means being terrified of literally everything. The dark, quicksand, this haircut I just got. And when we get older, we grow out of most of these fears. But what if I told you there were certain fears from my childhood that I still have today? And it's all because of these stories I'm about to tell you. Including one about the time where an animatronic did something so terrifying to me that I vowed to never go back to Chuck E. Cheese. So I'm gonna tell you about all my childhood fears, and we're gonna decide whether they were actually realistic or not really scary at all. But before we get to the animatronic story, we gotta talk about the fear that literally every kid on the face of this earth has. Jojo, see what? No, I mean, the fear of being kidnapped. And not just the fear of being kidnapped, but also white vans. No, not the shoes. These white vans. Those are still shoes. I'm talking about these white vans. Finally, there we go. I promise, I'm gonna fire my editor if he keeps acting up like this. LOL, no he isn't. What? Do you think I can't see this? What are you talking about? Anyways, I have a very specific reason for why I feared white vans growing up. Now I know, there's already a stigma around white vans. Like the person who's driving it is probably someone that's gonna offer you free candy, but then if you get in the van, you're gonna get kidnapped. So I'm growing up with this information being pumped into my brain constantly, and I'm already on high alert. I'm looking at every white van thinking, yep, there's definitely some kids trapped in there. But here's the thing that made this fear go from irrational to completely justified. Because there was actually someone in my neighborhood who had a white van. And at first, he seemed like a normal guy. He lived a few houses down, had a wife, seemed like he was just living his normal life. They'd wave at each other when he drove by. He'd say hi when we saw him at the mailbox. Just a regular dude with a white van trying to exist. I'd see his white van parked in his driveway and think, okay, well, my parents know him, so he must be one of the rare people who have a white van that won't kidnap you. And he actually made me start to think that people who drove white vans weren't kidnappers until one day when I'm coming home from school and I see police cars everywhere in my neighborhood. But not just one or two, I'm talking full SWAT team, multiple vehicles. The whole block is shut down and they're all at this dude's house, the white van guy's house. And I'm watching from my front yard as they bring this guy out in handcuffs and put him in a police car. So I'm thinking, what did he do? Did he rob a bank? Did he forget to pay his taxes? No, I wasn't thinking that. I didn't even know what taxes were at the time. To be honest, I still don't know what they are. But the point is, my child brain was trying to make sense of it. But later that night, I hear my parents talking about it in the kitchen. They wouldn't tell me directly what was going on, so I had to eavesdrop on their conversation in the hallway. And I hear them say the word murder. I'm thinking, oh, They must be talking about my mom's favorite soap opera or something like that. But I keep listening, and then I hear them say that our neighbor got arrested for murder. This man was actually out here doing unspeakable things, and we had no idea. We were just waving at a whole murderer every morning, and he had a white van. Like, could you have made it any more obvious, dude? I'm sure when the cops were doing their investigation, once they found out that this man had a white van, they immediately decided that he was guilty. Didn't even need any more evidence. So after that, I was convinced every single white van had a murderer inside it. I'd be at the grocery store with my mom and see a white van in the parking lot, and I'd say,
Mom, I love you, but I think we're about to get kidnapped.
if one was driving behind us on the road, I would say,
Mom, step on the gas now!
I don't know what Fast and Furious movie I thought I was in, but that's the thought that was going through my brain. I wonder where the guy who did that crime is at now. Let's look him up. Oh, yeah, he's still in prison. Turns out you don't get let off that easy when someone dies. Who would have thought? My fear of white vans is pretty realistic because there definitely have been some victims of white vans. I've seen it firsthand, although it's probably not as likely as it seems. The next fear we gotta talk about is one that literally every single kid on the face of the earth has: the dark. Now, like I said, every kid is scared of the dark, but I took it to another level because I'm pretty sure the house I grew up in was haunted. So whoever lives at this house right now, good luck. But the thing about the dark is that it makes your imagination go absolutely insane. Every shadow you see is a demon. Every creak you hear is someone breaking in. The coat on the back of your door, yeah, that's actually Michael Myers watching you sleep. So one night, I'm lying in bed trying to fall asleep, and out of the corner of my eye, I see my closet door move. And not just a little creak. It wasn't like a, oh, must have been the wind type of move. No, it slowly, deliberately opened by itself. And before you ask, no, I didn't have any windows open because it was like 30 degrees outside, so it couldn't have been from that. Now, since it was dark, I could only see the silhouette of the door moving, and that made it a little more confusing. But I'm frozen, obviously. Like, I literally just discovered that ghosts are real, but because I'm in the dark, alone, I try to gaslight myself into believing that I didn't just see what happened. But then, the door moved again. Just slightly, maybe another inch or two. And that was it for me. I decided right there that whatever was in that closet was trying to kill me. So for the next week, I made a promise to myself, which was, I'm not gonna fall asleep. I couldn't, because I was convinced that every single time I closed my eyes, the closet monster would get me and my whole family would die. So when nighttime came around, I literally forced myself to stay awake until my body physically couldn't take it anymore. I kept the lights on in my room the whole night, and whenever I would start to get a little sleepy, I would just sit up in my bed and stare at the closet. I literally did this for hours, waiting for the morning to come. I got maybe 2 hours of sleep each night during this whole week, but it got to the point where it was ruining my life. My parents started asking why I looked like Goob from Meet the Robinsons, and I just said I was stressed about school. Because what else am I supposed to say? Oh, I'm not going to sleep because if I do, a monster will get me? My dad would have disowned me right there. Instead, I got disowned a couple years later because of how much of a disappointment I was in sports. I'm just kidding. My dad and I love each other. No, that sounded kind of weird. We love each other in a platonic way. Like, not in a... Okay, I'm just gonna stop talking, never mind. Anyways, the only reason I stopped staying up every night was because I started to get pretty sick from not getting enough sleep. Eventually, my parents made me go to the doctor, and they told me that if I continued to get such little sleep every single night, it would stunt my growth. And the one thing I was more scared of than the monsters in my closet was being 5'6". So, I forced myself to start sleeping again, and the monster never got me. I would give this fear about a 50% chance of being realistic because I still don't know what opened that closet door. Was it a ghost? Was it the wind, even though my window was closed? The world may never know, but I do know what caused me to have this next fear, which is the fear of my parents. Now, so far, we've talked about how I was scared of ghosts and creepy people in white vans, but I promise you, there was nothing in my childhood that scared me more than my mom. I don't even want to speak about the things she was capable of. There were different levels of fearing your parents. Level 1 was when they would use your first name in a slightly stern voice.
Tyler, come here, please.
Okay, no biggie. Maybe I left my backpack on the floor or something. I can handle this. Level 2 was when they would use your first and middle name.
Tyler LeBron, get in here.
Okay, now I'm a little bit nervous. I definitely did something wrong, but I don't know what yet. Level 3 was when they used your full government name. First, middle, and last.
Tyler LeBron Vitelli, get down here right now.
At that point, you better pray. You may not know it yet, but you're cooked. That's the point of no return. But the worst level, level 4, was when they got quiet. When they found out you did something bad, and instead of yelling, they just went silent. That was somehow more terrifying than any amount of yelling, because you don't know what they're thinking. You don't know what punishment is coming. You're just sitting there in silence, waiting for the hammer to drop. And the anticipation is worse than anything they could actually do to you. I remember one time, I was throwing the football around in my house with my brother, and of course, my mom told us to stop, but of course, we didn't listen. And eventually, my brother was like,
"Hey, go long for an Odell catch."
Which, if you don't know what an Odell catch is, it's this. So we tried to recreate that, and basically, one thing led to another. I didn't have very good hand-eye coordination, and we broke a window. Our hearts both sank because right away, our mom, who was in her room, goes,
What was that noise?
and she comes furiously walking into the living room. I could tell it was her because my mom always had very distinctive footsteps. And I'm just sitting there hugging my brother, telling him I love him because I know this is the day we go to heaven. But when she walks in, she looks at the window, looks at both of us, and doesn't say anything. Just keeps staring at us with a terrifying look on her face. And that silence was worse than any amount of yelling or punishment she could have gave us. We knew that we were in trouble, but what we didn't know was what was gonna happen next. That's the worst feeling in the world, the not knowing. Your brain starts imagining every possible punishment. Grounded for a year, no video games ever again, sent to military school, forced to watch a full season of Young Sheldon. The punishment itself usually isn't even that horrible, but the fear leading up to finding out what the punishment would be, that was the real torture. And you'd think this situation couldn't get any worse. But trust me, it could. Because finally, when she does decide to speak, she goes,
Wait till your father gets home.
if you grew up with a father, that sounded like a diss to people who didn't grow up with a father. I didn't mean it like that. Basically what I'm saying is, if you've ever heard your mom say that sentence, you know that's a death sentence. Because when your mom said this, you had hours to think about what was gonna happen. You're just sitting in your room knowing that you're about to get a punishment you could only imagine happening in a Call of Duty mission, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't run, you can't escape, you just have to sit there and wait for your demise. So my dad gets home that night, and by the way, between the time where we broke the window and my dad got home, my mom literally did not talk to me the whole time. And when my dad finally did get home, he already knew the situation. My mom must have texted it to him because he walks into the front door and I'm in my room just waiting, and I hear him slam the front door behind him. And I know the next thing that's getting slammed is me. I'm starting to realize that I'm just making it sound like my parents beat me as a child, so I just want to make it clear, they did not do that. I'm just using words like slam to make the story more dramatic. But my dad comes marching down to my room. Once again, I knew it was him because he had distinctive footsteps too, and he opens my door and says,
Tyler, what did you do to the window?
I broke it playing football.
What?
I broke it playing football.
Did mom say you could play football in the house?
No. When I answered that question, without saying another word, he just started unplugging stuff in my room. First it was my PlayStation, then my TV, then my umbilical cord, and he just put all these things in their closet where I couldn't get to it. They didn't tell me how long they were taking it away or anything. And that was the day I had to learn how to meditate. Just stared at a wall for the rest of the day. They still never gave me any of my technology back, by the way. And I know what you're thinking. Well, how are you recording this video if you don't have any technology? I'm not. This video is just a figment of your imagination. Nothing is real. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. So the fear of parents is absolutely justified until you get to about 13 years old and you become stronger than your parents. The next fear I'm gonna tell you about, once again, we all had this. Matter of fact, if you didn't have this, I would call you the crazy one, because I'm talking about the fear of sharks. But for me, this fear was a little different because I wasn't scared of sharks in the ocean. No, I knew I could just avoid those. My fear was about sharks in the pool. Yes, the 4-foot pool in my neighborhood with chlorine in it. I genuinely thought a shark could somehow teleport into there like it had powers or something. And this wasn't just a passing thought or a little worry in the back of my mind. This fear was so real that it's one of the main reasons I didn't learn how to swim until very late in my life. I'm saying that like I learned how to swim at 60. I mean very late in my life up to now. But everyone thought I was just being lazy or that I was scared of water in general, and that's why I never learned how to swim. Like my parents would try to convince me to get in the pool and I would just be like,
Nah.
and they would just think it was because I
Didn't want to exercise.
But no. Well, yeah, it kind of was because of that too. But I was specifically scared that if I went into the deep end of my pool, Jaws would be chilling there waiting for me like it's his lunch break. I'd check the pool before getting in like I'm checking for bombs, walking around the perimeter, looking into the deep end from above, making sure there's no suspicious movements in the water. And even after checking, I'd still only stay in the shallow end where I could see the bottom clearly and my feet could touch the ground. Going to the deep end? Absolutely not. That's where the sharks were hiding. That's their territory. I'm not going over there. I value my life. And deep down, I knew this fear made no sense. But there was just one small part of my brain, well, I guess every part of my brain is
Probably pretty small.
but this part was telling me that there's a shark in that pool. But what if I told you I had another water-related fear that was even more specific and somehow more terrifying? Yep, you guessed it, because the other water fear I had was snakes being in the toilet while I was pooping. Let me explain, because this one actually kept me up at night. So sometime during my childhood, I saw a news story about a snake that came up through toilet pipes. I'm pretty sure this happened in Australia or something because everything happens there with animals. I don't know how y'all do it. I see videos of people sleeping with 15-foot spiders like it's nothing. But once I learned this information that snakes could crawl through your toilet pipes, I could never unlearn it. It was burned into my brain forever. So every time I had to use the bathroom, I would would just think about the possibility of a snake being in there. I would check the toilet seat every single time before sitting down. Look into the bowl, make sure there's nothing suspicious going on down there, and then give it a flush just to be safe. Sometimes I'd even hover over the seat instead of actually sitting on it because I was so paranoid that the moment I sat down, a snake would strike. I was sitting there while taking a dookie in a 3-point stance like an offensive lineman. But here's where it gets even more scary. Remember the pool shark fear? Well, imagine having both of these fears at the exact same time. Because one day I was at a pool party and I was already nervous about being in the water because of the shark thing. But finally, I built up the courage to go in because I didn't want to look like a loser in front of everyone. So I'm in the pool. But for some reason, going in the pool always makes me have to poop. And now I'm faced with a dilemma. Do I stay in the pool with a potential shark or do I go to the bathroom where there's a potential snake? After saying that sentence out loud, I'm really starting to realize that I sound schizophrenic. But to me, the answer was obvious of what to do in this situation. I'm just gonna poop in the pool. Or at least that's what I would have done if I was brave. But in reality, I just went to the bathroom and it ended up being perfectly fine. And you wanna know a little secret? I still check toilets before I sit down. Because although the chances of getting bit by a snake while taking a dookie are low, they're never zero. This is a fear I don't know why I had because it's not even realistic for this to actually ever happen. So I'd give this like a 10% chance of actually coming true. Speaking of irrational fears, why the heck were we all taught to fear quicksand growing up? I genuinely thought that this was gonna be a daily problem in my life. Like it would just be everywhere. Beach, desert, my backyard. I figured anywhere there was sand, there was quicksand. Every cartoon and movie made quicksand seem unavoidable. Every adventure show, someone got stopped in quicksand. Every jungle scene in a movie, quicksand. So naturally, my kid brain assumed this would be a huge obstacle in my life. But here's the thing, I've been alive a lot of years, and to this day, I've never seen quicksand. Not once. Beaches, deserts, hiking trips, different countries, and I've still never encountered it. Turns out quicksand is rare and not even that dangerous. Most places with quicksand aren't even deep enough to fully submerge you. If you actually did encounter it, you'd probably get stuck and then just pull yourself out and be fine. I could have put all this energy worrying about quicksand towards something useful, like getting a job. This fear was not valid because there's basically no chance of ever finding quicksand, but it made sense why we were all scared of it growing up. But I promise you, there is a fear that surpasses anything else I've mentioned so far. A fear that literally gives me goosebumps just to think about, and that is the fear of women. When I was growing up, and still low-key today, I was genuinely terrified of women. I'm talking full-blown panic attacks whenever a girl talked to me. My brain would just shut down. And that's normal when you're first growing up, but usually once you get to about middle school, you grow out of that phase. You start to realize, hey, I don't want to play with Legos no more. I'm trying to riz up my classmates. And that's what all my friends started to do, except for me. I just could not figure it out. Like you grow up watching movies and TV shows where guys are supposed to be smooth and confident and know exactly what to say. They walk up to a girl, say some witty line, and boom, she's in love. Easy. But in real life, whenever you put a girl in front of me, I somehow forgot every word in the English language. Every interaction was just a disaster waiting to happen. A girl will say hi to me in the hallway, and I'd respond with some weird noise that wasn't even a word. It would just be like this.
Hey, Tyler.
Oh my gosh. And after that, the girl would just give me a look that said, this guy might be taking a bus that's slightly smaller than ours to school every day. And the absolute worst part of this fear was asking girls out. I could barely order food at a restaurant without stuttering. And now you want me to ask a girl to be my girlfriend? That's not gonna end well. It's probably why I still haven't had a girlfriend to this day. But one day, I finally worked up the courage to ask someone out. There was this girl in my English class, let's call her Sarah. She was way out of my league. But my friends kept telling me,
Bro, she totally likes you. Just go for it.
Side note, if your friends ever tell you this girl totally wants you, they are lying and they just want to see you shoot an air ball when asking her out. They're saying it for their own amusement. Do not trust them. So I spent an entire week planning what I was gonna say to this girl. I rehearsed it in the mirror. I wrote down different versions in my notes. I was prepared. And this was before my prom disaster that I made a video about, if you guys haven't seen that before. So one day after class, I see Sarah at her locker and I'm thinking, this is it. This is my moment. I'm gonna do it. And I walk over there, heart pounding, palms sweating, probably looking like I'm about to pass out, and I tap her on the shoulder. She turns around and smiles at me. But that smile made my brain completely reset. Everything I planned, gone. Every word I rehearsed, couldn't remember. So I'm standing there, mouth open, no words coming out, and she's just looking at me like,
Yes?
Eventually, I finally managed to say, you wanna hung out? I didn't even use the word hang. I accidentally said hung out. But then her response is,
Oh.
and that oh told me everything I needed to know. That was not a good oh. That was a, I'm about to reject you and I feel bad about it. Oh. And then she goes,
That's really sweet, but I actually have a boyfriend.
now, did I appreciate that she was letting me down easy and not being mean? Yeah, of course. But at the same time, I knew she was lying. This girl did not have a boyfriend. I was friends with with people who were friends with her, and she was the most single person they knew outside of me. Of course, by the next day, everyone knew about it. The whole school knew I got rejected. This fear is fully justified because it's scary to put yourself out there and talk to people, which is why I don't. I really need to get over this fear though, because I'm starting to get really lonely, dog. And my parents want grandchildren, but I don't think that's happening, let's be real. Still have hope. Anyways, I had a lot of fears that came from absolutely nowhere. Like closing my eyes while in the shower, for example. I would rather let my eyes burn from shampoo running into my pupils than actually close them and let something attack me. This was not a valid fear at all. I was just being an idiot. Another fear I had was being scared of sleeping with my leg or arm hanging off the bed. This one was obvious. Once again, it was just because of monsters. This next fear is something I will be scared of till the day I die. And I think you should be scared of it too, because I'm talking about animatronics. I know these robots that are trying to look friendly, but in reality, they just look like they want to harvest your organs, aren't actually alive, right? This isn't Five Nights at Freddy's. They don't actually come to life or anything like that. Well, let's see if you change your mind after this story I'm about to tell you. Because when I was younger, I had a birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese. And if you don't know what this place is, it's basically the same place as Five Nights at Freddy's. So everything's going fine at first. I'm playing games, eating pizza that probably has cardboard in it, but I don't care because I'm 6 years old and my taste buds aren't developed yet. And I'm having a good time with my friends. But then, my parents call us over to sit down because the animatronic show was about to start. So the lights in this place dim, the music starts playing, and these robots come to life on stage. At first, I'm just watching from my table thinking, yeah, they're a little creepy looking, but also kind of cool. And I was also probably thinking about peeing my pants because I was 6. Wait, do people still pee their pants at 6 years old? I don't know, but I did. But anyways, mid-performance, one of the animatronics started to malfunction. And I'm not talking a little hiccup, I'm talking full-on malfunction. The head starts turning the wrong way and it's buffering, repeating the same line over and over again. It's a mess. So I do what any other 6-year-old would do in this situation, and I pee my pants. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't do that this time. But what I did was run away and go back to playing skee ball. I didn't want to watch any more of this show because it was freaking me out. This was starting to feel like Five Nights at Freddy's before Five Nights at Freddy's even existed, because I saw the robots malfunctioning as a warning sign. I thought they were becoming self-aware and they were about to attack us. You call it schizophrenia, I call it preparation. So after this nightmare show was finished, I thought it was over. I wouldn't have to deal with these animatronics anymore. But a couple minutes later, I get called back over to the table again, but this time, everyone was gonna sing me happy birthday. But guess who came out to deliver my cake? That's right, the man himself, Diddy. Wait, no, I mean Chucky. Chucky brought the cake out. The mouse that the name is placed after. Not Diddy. Diddy wasn't there. I promise. Or at least I hope. Anyways, so Chucky comes to my table and everyone's singing me happy birthday. I'm still kind of terrified because of what happened earlier and the fact that I hate getting happy birthday sung to me. But right as the song is about to finish, Chucky gets really close to my face to put the cake down. And when he does that, I look into Chucky's mouth and that's when I see it. Through the mesh in the mouth of the costume, I can see a real person's eyes looking at me. I can just see them blinking. There's a whole human being inside this rat costume, and somehow that made everything 10 times worse. Cause I was 5. I thought the real Chucky was just pulling up to my party. I didn't think there was actually a human being behind there. So I start crying, and not like a little sniffle. I'm talking full meltdown, tears everywhere, screaming. Everyone at the party is staring at me wondering what happened. Chucky's trying to calm me down, but every time he takes a step closer to me, I start throwing out haymakers at him. My parents grab me and take me outside to try to calm me down, but there's no point. We had to leave the party early. I didn't even get to finish my cake or spend my tickets. Just had to leave in shame because I couldn't handle Chuck E. Cheese. From that day on, any animatronic or mascot costume terrified me. If I went to Disneyland, I'd avoid the mascots there like they had the plague. My parents thought I would grow out of this, but I didn't. So yes, this fear was fully justified. I don't care what any of you guys say. But unfortunately guys, I just peed my pants like back in the good old days. Everyone watching this video has had the exact same dreams before. Whether it's the feeling of falling, becoming a superhero, or dating your crush. But for some reason, I specifically have a lot of dreams. Like almost every night. And as you all know, there's not a lot that goes on inside my brain during the day, but this all changes the moment I fall asleep. Because for whatever reason, I've had some crazy dreams in my life. Some really cool, and some really embarrassing. So let's talk about the most wild, unhinged dreams I've ever had. But just so you know, I'm leaving the most embarrassing one for last. And let's just say what happened in that last dream ruined my relationship with someone forever. Now this first dream absolutely traumatized me, but not for the reason you would expect. Because I had a dream where I got put back in 4th grade. So I'm just sitting there in class with a bunch of 10-year-olds, or however old 4th graders are, except I was still my current age and current size.
But Tyler, why would you being in 4th grade again traumatize you?
Is it because 4th graders are still smarter than you, even though you're literally 23 now? No, but this dream traumatized me because it ended with getting chased by a SWAT team. So imagine this. I walk into an elementary school classroom and everyone else is a normal 4th grader. Little kids, tiny desks, animal posters on the wall, that classic elementary school carpet with the alphabet on it. And then there's me, fully grown, adult-sized, way too big for all the furniture, just walking in and sitting down at one of those tiny desks like this is completely normal. My knees were hitting the bottom of the desk. My arms barely fit on the surface. I had to hunch over because I was blocking other kids' views. I looked absolutely ridiculous. But here's the part that made it so uncomfortable. Nobody thought it was weird. The teacher didn't say anything to me. The other kids didn't say anything. Nobody acknowledged that there was a fully grown adult sitting in a 4th grade classroom. They all just went about their day normally. But I knew I wasn't supposed to be there. I kept looking around, waiting for someone to notice, but nope, everyone was focused on learning multiplication or whatever you learn in 4th grade. Then the teacher starts teaching, and it's basic math. I'm talking 4 plus 7 type problems.
Actually, what is 4 plus 7? Never mind.
But I'm sitting there absolutely cooking the rest of the class. 3 times 9, 27. Meanwhile, all these other kids have to use their fingers to get the answers. But just as I was starting to think, maybe I really am a 4th grader, I thought the nightmare was over. But then out of nowhere, the teacher looks at me, like actually makes eye contact with me for the very first time, and she says,
Tyler, why are you in this class? You're way too old to be here.
Before this moment, it was like no one was aware of me. Sure, they knew I was there, but none of them seemed conscious until now. So when the teacher asked why I was in this class, I was like, girl, I was wondering the same thing. But before I could even say anything, she picks up her phone and calls the police. Like a serial killer just broke into her home and she was reporting them. I heard her say,
Yes, we have a situation. There's an adult in the 4th grade classroom. Send help immediately.
so I'm sitting there like,
Wait, hold on. I didn't do anything wrong.
but within seconds, I hear sirens, then helicopter propellers, then footsteps in the hallway. And then, bam, the door burst open. And it wasn't just a regular cop, it was a full SWAT team. Tactical gear, shields, helmets, bulletproof vests, all to capture this dude. One of the officers pointed at me and yelled,
That's him!
Then everyone in class turned and looked at me. And it was at this moment where every kid became conscious and aware that there was an adult in a 4th grade class. So they all started screaming. And for some reason, the only thing I could think to do in this moment was just start running. I literally jumped through the class windows to the outdoors and started running. And the SWAT team starts chasing me. I could hear radios going off behind me. Someone yelled,
Suspect is fleeing!
I heard dogs barking. I ran out of the building and into the streets. I was going through neighborhoods, jumping over fences, cutting through backyards. Full action movie sequence. It felt like having 5 stars on GTA. Eventually, I ran into a dead-end alley with nowhere to go. So I turned around and saw officers blocking the exit. I was completely so I accepted my fate and put my hands up. This was it. But right as the officer came sprinting after me, ready to catch me, I woke up. Now you could say I was the villain in this scenario, but everyone has envisioned themselves being a superhero before. It's just what you do growing up. And one time, I had a dream where I woke up, well, I thought I woke up fully convinced I was Batman. I literally looked in the mirror and in the reflection, I saw a man with a mask and makeup. This was my life now. I fully accepted it. No questions asked. And naturally, the first thing you do when you find out you're Batman is try to fly. Now, the only problem is, in the movies, Batman cannot fly. He uses gadgets like grappling hooks and the Batmobile to catch air sometimes, but he himself does not have the ability to fly. I guess my brain knew this, but me in the dream me didn't care about any of that at all. Dream me had fully convinced himself that Batman could fly, and I was about to prove it. So I climbed to the top of the Empire State Building, I stood on the edge, and I'm looking down over the whole city, ready to protect it. As every person in this scenario would do, I say to myself,
I'm Batman.
and then I go for it. I jump. So I'm falling and falling and falling, and I get about halfway down before I realize, oh wait, I can't fly. So now I start freaking out, thinking I'm about to hit the ground at 500 miles per hour with my arms flailing, legs kicking, just screaming while I watch the ground get closer and closer. And right before I hit the pavement, I woke up. My heart is racing in real life. I'm sweating, fully convinced for a solid 10 seconds that I, Bruce Wayne, almost just fell to my death. But then I realized it was a dream, calmed down, and thought,
Oh, thank God it wasn't real.
and you would have thought that was where the story ended, right? But no, because I closed my eyes and once again, I'm back to being Batman. But never in my life have I been able to re-enter a dream until this day. So I just figured, oh, this must actually be real. I don't know if I joined the multiverse to get in here or what, but somehow I was back, still fully convinced I was Batman. But this time I wasn't trying to fly. This time I learned my lesson. But when I spawned in for the second time, the Joker was with me. He was standing in this warehouse across from me, and I walked over to him ready for the big confrontation. This was my moment, the moment where Batman shows his ability and defeats the Joker. So I slowly walked over to him, expecting for him to give me a monologue, you know, like Every villain does. I thought he was gonna explain to me his evil plan, give me time to think of a clever comeback, maybe do that classic villain thing where they reveal too much information and accidentally tell me how to stop them. But that's not what happened. That's not what happened at all. Cause I go up to him, and right as I'm about to speak, he just starts punching me in the face. No warning, no dialogue, just assault. And I tried to fight back. I really did, but my arms were moving like I was underwater. You know that dream thing where you try to punch someone, but your fists are going in slow motion and they have zero power behind them? That was happening to me. So I'm throwing these weak, pathetic punches that aren't connecting at all, and he's just absolutely cooking me. I'm getting hit in the face, the ribs, the stomach, and I can feel it too. It hurts. He hit me so many times I started crying. Have you ever seen Batman cry in these movies? Didn't think so. I was about to pass out right there in the dream, but right before I lost consciousness, I woke up again in real life with tears in my eyes. Not my proudest moment. I feel like if there was any chance of me playing Batman in the future, I just lost it with that story.
What am I talking about? I never had a chance of playing Batman anyway.
Now here's the thing about dreams that nobody talks about. They don't just stay in your head. Sometimes they leak out into real life. And that's when things get truly horrifying. Because I'm a person who talks in their sleep. Like pretty much every night. I shared bunk beds with my brother growing up, and he told me every night I'd be having full-on conversations with myself at 3 a.m. And usually it's just harmless stuff. I'll be mumbling random words, then out of the blue go,
cheeseburgers.
and then I go back to silent sleeping. No big deal. But one night, one cursed night, I had a dream that was so intense, so vivid, that when I woke up, all my friends couldn't believe what just happened. Because while I was sleeping during a sleepover with my friends, I randomly woke up in the middle of the night. But when I opened my eyes, I saw all 4 of my friends surrounding me, just staring. I thought one of 2 things must have happened here. Number 1, I peed the bed and they were disgusted and never wanted to be friends again. Or number 2, they were pulling a prank on me since I fell asleep first. So I checked my fingers and toes to make sure none of them were chopped off, and then I checked to make sure my pants weren't wet. And when I finished all those checks, I asked them,
Guys, what's going on? Why are you recording me? What did I do?
and one of my friends goes,
Dude, you were sleep talking. But like not normally. You need to watch this video I recorded of it.
so they showed me the footage, and I'm not exaggerating when I say I sounded fully possessed. I was having a full-blown heated argument with someone who didn't exist in my sleep, and I was locked in. I was gesturing with my hands, raising my voice. I was debating like my life depended on it, except none of it made sense. At one point in the video they showed me, I sat up from my bed with my eyes still closed, fully asleep. I pointed at nothing and then yelled,
That's not how marshmallows work!
Then I went completely silent for like 10 seconds, just staring straight ahead with my eyes closed before mumbling something about sandwiches and then lying back down. My friends told me I did this for 20 minutes straight. 20 minutes of me having the biggest debate of my life with an invisible opponent. They told me at one point I said,
Something bad is about to happen.
and then I immediately followed that up with,
But if you toast the bread first, it'll all be okay.
and the crazy part was I had no memory of this dream. I don't know what I was arguing about. I don't know who I was arguing with. I don't know why toast was involved. The thing I can't stand about dreams is that there's always something holding you back. No matter what the situation is, your brain decides to nerf you for no reason. It's like you're playing in hardcore mode every time you dream. You ever been inside a dream where everyone is screaming at you, calling you chopped, short, dumb?
Actually, that kind of just sounds like my comment section.
But what I was saying is, have you ever been in a dream like this, but you don't have the ability to speak back? You can't even defend yourself. You just gotta take the diss. That's the thing about dreams. There are no rules. So if something doesn't make sense inside the dream, oh well, it doesn't have to. And trust me, this next dream made absolutely no sense at all, and it still haunts me to this day. Now, when you hear it, you're gonna think,
Tyler, that's not scary at all.
you just have to really put yourself in my shoes to understand my perspective, okay? So I had a dream. I feel like Martin Luther King when I say that.
I had a dream.
Okay, what was I talking about? Oh, I had a dream where I was being chased. I didn't know why. I didn't know where I was. I just knew that I had to run, and I had to run fast because something bad would happen if I got caught. Here was the problem though. I was moving in slow motion. You know that nightmare thing when you try to sprint, but your legs feel like they're made of cement, and no matter how hard you push, you barely move? That was me. So I'm trying so hard to run. Like I'm pumping my arms, pushing off the ground with everything I have. I'm leaning forward trying to gain momentum, but I'm moving at the speed of a sloth with a sprained ankle trying to go through peanut butter. And you're all gonna say, Tyler,
We've all had this dream before, but what makes yours so special?
well, the whole time I was running, I could hear footsteps behind me, getting closer and closer, steadily gaining on me. And I can see the silhouette of who was chasing behind me. me. But the weird part is, on their head was a bow that kept bouncing up and down as they were running. At first, I couldn't tell who it was. All I could see was the bow, a pink, sparkly bow. I tried to look back to see who was chasing me, but every time I turned my head, I'd slow down even more. It was like the dream had rules, and one of the rules was, if you look back, you lose speed. So I'm stuck running forward in slow motion while this bow gets closer and closer. Eventually, I worked up the courage to actually turn around and see who it was. And guess who I saw? JoJo Siwa. Full ponytail, big bow on, full sparkly outfit, just casually chasing me through the woods in my dream like it was a normal afternoon activity for her. And she's got this big smile on her face. And you would think I would be relieved to see that it's not a serial killer or anything like that. But no, somehow this made it more creepy because she wasn't even running aggressively. She wasn't sprinting or chasing me with any urgency. She was just there, effortlessly gliding toward me while I'm out here fighting for my life. I tried everything to escape her. I turned corners, she was still there. I'd hide behind things, she'd find me immediately. I even tried running into a building and going out the back exit. But when I got outside, she was somehow already there waiting for me. It was like she had teleportation abilities, or she knew exactly where I was going before I did. Low-key, I feel like JoJo Siwa does have teleportation abilities in real life. But it was almost as if she was in my head. Well, I guess she was technically. At one point, I tried to reason with her. I stopped running, turned around and said, "What do you want from me?" She did not respond. She just kept gliding towards me with a smile on her face, not saying a word. Just existing in the most terrifying way possible. So I started running again. Then finally, I tripped on something and she catches up to me and she's towering over me. Gotta be at least 10 feet tall. And right before she did whatever she was about to do, I sprung up from my bed back to reality. So JoJo, if you're watching this, no hate, but now every time I see that bow on your head, it gives me PTSD. What am I kidding? JoJo Siwa is not watching this video. But the image of those bows bouncing toward me in slow motion will stick with me forever. That's the weird thing about dreams. You almost never seem to get the climax of them. And this applies to both bad and good dreams. When you don't want to wake up because you're married to Megan Fox, you wake up right before the dream gets good. And when you're in a dream where, well, you're falling off a skyscraper, right before you hit the ground, you wake up. It's almost like our brain doesn't want us to get too happy or too scared. Well, actually, no, that's a lie. Your brain will definitely let you get too scared during a dream. And I can prove it because one time I had a dream I can still picture perfectly right now. The worst dreams are the ones you don't even realize you're in. You know exactly what I'm talking about. The dreams where you're going about your day completely normal. Everything feels accurate. The sounds are right. Physics are working correctly. You're fully immersed in what you think is real life. And then you see a toilet and your brain goes,
"Oh, I should use this."
And you think,
"Yeah, this seems fine. This is definitely a real toilet. I'm definitely actually awake right now. There's no way this is a dream."
and then you use the toilet. And that's when everything turns sideways. Because even though you're sitting on the toilet, you start to feel something warm creep down your leg. What is it? Oh, right, it's pee! Because you weren't actually asleep. Your brain just gaslit you into thinking you were because well, I don't know why actually. That's a good question. Scientists say that everything in this world serves a purpose, right? Trees gives you oxygen, water gives you hydration, LeBron gives you love. But what purpose does peeing in your dream serve? Was it just God's way of saying,
Yo, dog, you really need to clean those bed sheets.
because other than that, I can't think of any good reasoning. But I know exactly why my brain decided to give me this next dream. Because this next dream was literally something I've thought about doing my whole life. It should have been the best dream of my life. But instead, it became a nightmare. Let me set the scene. Suddenly, I wake up and bam, there I am playing in the World Cup final. I'm on the pitch while the game is going on, and I look around and realize,
Oh snap, I'm not watching the final.
I'm playing in it. So my first thought is, this is incredible. But then I realized something horrible. I didn't get any superpowers in this dream. Most dreams, if you're doing something you can't do in real life, your brain gives you a boost. But not this time. I didn't suddenly have the skill level of Messi. No, it was just normal me playing against the best players in the world in a World Cup final in front of 100,000 people. The whistle blew, and immediately, I knew I was in trouble. The ball came near me, and I tried to control it, but that worked horribly. It bounced off my shin and went out of bounds, and the crowd groans. I tried to defend, but the other team's players just blew past me like I wasn't even there. And it kept getting worse, because every time the ball came to me, I'd lose it immediately. I tried to pass, it'd get intercepted. I tried to shoot, I'd miss the goal by 500 feet. Within 10 minutes, the other team was up 3-0, and all 3 goals were basically my fault. The commentators started personally attacking me. I could hear them through the stadium speakers. One of them literally said,
This is genuinely the worst performance I have ever seen at this level.
The fans started booing me, but not just casual booing, like aggressive booing. Then they started chanting, and I would repeat to you what they were saying, but I don't want this video to get taken down. Eventually, the booing got so bad that I couldn't take it anymore. So I just ran off the field. In the middle of the game, just straight up left. I ran toward the locker room, and the people in the stands are throwing water bottles at me. Anything they had in their hand instantly became a weapon. I made it to the parking lot and collapsed against a wall, crying, while I could still hear the stadium in the background. I've always watched World Cup matches on TV thinking if I was out there, I feel like I could compete. But let me just tell you, that is the stupidest thing I have ever thought. And trust me, I've thought a lot of stupid things. But have you ever had a dream that you wish you could go back to? Like when you wake up, you almost want to cry just thinking about the fact that your dream wasn't real. And then you try your very hardest to go back into the dream, but it doesn't work. Because that's how this next dream was. And let's just say it involves my sweet Pookie Bear Honey Boo Scrum Diddly Dum Goat, LeBron James. So one day, during a dream, I wake up in my bed and everything feels normal. But then I rolled over and I see that there's another bed in my room and someone's sleeping in it. Who is sleeping in it? LeBron Ramon James. And my brain fully accepted this as normal. There was no moment of confusion. I just thought,
Oh, yeah, LeBron's my roommate now. That's just how it is.
and when you got a roommate like LeBron, you just want to make him happy. So what did I do? I got up and made him breakfast before he woke up. Pancakes, eggs, bacon, toast, orange juice, the full spread. Little did I know, this would be a horrible decision. Because Bron woke up, came into the kitchen, saw the food, and said,
Oh, good looking out, man. Thanks.
so we ate together, had a completely normal conversation, and after we finished eating, he left for his game. It all felt completely natural. But that night, I was sitting on the couch watching his game, and it went bad. The Lakers got crushed. So I knew LeBron would be upset when he got back home. But about an hour later, I hear the door open, and it's LeBron. But immediately, I could tell something was wrong. He didn't say a word. He just walked in, sat down on the couch next to me, and stared at the wall. I gave him a minute, but after a while, I was like,
Yo, you good?
he turns to me, and the look on his face was pure disappointment. Then he goes,
Tyler, we can't be friends anymore.
so I'm like,
Wait, what are you talking about, Pookie?
and he says,
The breakfast you gave me this morning gave me food poisoning. I felt sick the whole game and I played terrible. It's all your fault we lost.
he just shook his head and said,
I can't have you around if you're gonna mess up my career. You gotta leave. Pack your stuff now.
so I started packing in silence, and he just sat there on the couch watching me gather my things. And I'm literally crying like we were going through a divorce. I grabbed my stuff, walked toward the door, and turned around to say something, maybe apologize one more time, but he just looks at me and said,
I never want to see you again.
and when I left, I woke up. But here's the crazy part. Even after I woke up, I still felt bad. I sat up in bed, fully awake, and my first thought was,
I need to find a way to apologize to LeBron.
it took me a solid 10 minutes to remember that none of it was real. LeBron James does not actually know me. Maybe he does. No, he doesn't. But LeBron, if you're watching this, please let me make it up to you. I love you, LeBron. Would you like to be friends in real life? Maybe? No? Okay, stupid question. Sorry.